Oh, I thought I might find you in here. You always loved this library, didn't you? This is a private collection, you know. There are stories from all over the world here. Books written in the snowy mountaintops of frost, where jarls rule over holds, and the blistering deserts of dust, where the massive sandipedes roam the stretching dunes. Oh, you want a story? Well, I suppose I can find the strength to stay up a little longer and tell you one. The night is late and the fire warm. Come, sit down, and I'll tell you a story. This isn't just a fairy tale, my friend. This is the story of Fowl, Taladar. Fowl Taladar was born right here in Aranza, hundreds of years ago, in the fishing village of Ambervine on the border of the tangled wood and the shimmering sea. His parents were quaint, simple people, his father a mason and his mother a seamstress. His father wanted to raise Fowl a mason, much like himself, but despite his best efforts, Fowl was a curious boy. And as he got older, he spent more days wandering the tangled wood than hammering an anvil. Now, I know you've never been to the east, but believe me when I tell you, the tangled wood is a very, very big forest. But Fowl loved to explore so much that one day, when he couldn't have been more than 8 years of age, he forgot his way home. After discovering their son's disappearance, Fowl's parents feared the worst, for it is during the dark hours of the night, when the shadows overtake the grass, that the demons come to roam and hunt from the dark places of the forest. And unfortunately, it was during these desperate hours of searching that Fowl's parents met their untimely fate, and the forest devoured them. But unlike his parents, Fowl didn't perish. He learned to live among the forest in the daytime and survive among the demons at night. He learned to stay away from the skeletal branches of the weeping widows, and to hide when he heard the giggling of his mother. For he nearly paid with his life when he first found out it was not, in fact, his mother. Weeks turned to months, and months turned into 3 long years before a retired military man named Relv stumbled across the skittish, wild boy, and after a number of tricky days and a loaf or two of bread, finally convinced the raggedy boy to come home to Ambervine with him. And it was only then that some residents of the village, as well as a childhood friend or two, recognized him as one of the many young children lost to the forest, Fowl Taladar. But with the boy's parents dead and no other known living relatives, the military man Relv volunteered to take the boy in and raise him as his own. Relv taught Fowl to behave again, to read and write, but most importantly, and I want you to remember this, he taught Fowl how to sword fight. You see, most of these books tell stories of Fowl's prowess in battle. The Omen Rider, they called him, unstoppable, beautiful, a force to be reckoned with. But many stories leave out important lessons, and this lesson, my young friend, is this: legends need to learn too. Remember that. I digress. Relv taught Fowl how to fight, and by the time Fowl had reached 14, he readily joined the ranks of the Ambervine Guard, policing the village and whatnot. But unlike many of his peers, Fowl showed remarkable potential. Some may call it innate ability. Others may believe it was from his time in the forest, or skills learned from Relv. Whatever the answer may be, one thing was for certain: Fowl was born to lead, not follow. When it came to swordplay, after time, he came to best even the most talented duelists in the county. At 16, he presented a plan to the city council for improved defensive measures against the rising threat of a local gang named Skulkers, which was applied, and turned the tides in Ambervine's favour. Fowl inspired his peers by working harder than they did and actively lifting burdens from others. Any envy towards him at the beginning was long snuffed out by the time a raven came from our capital, Waterstone, with news of the rising rebellion on the far continent of Dust. War had begun, and the king needed men, good men. And just like that, Fowl, along with a good 200 others from Ambervine or so, were drafted and found themselves marching to and arriving in Waterstone, ready to fight and die for the king. After seeing how highly Fowl's peers treated him and proving himself over the few weeks of standard training, it didn't take long for the vanguard captains to appoint Fowl a captain of his squad. This training period was brief, however, and before long, Fowl was sailing the northern sea with thousands of others in the king's mighty fleet. Young Captain Fowl didn't know it at the time, but they were sailing towards one of the most infamous and bloody battles in history, the fiery breach